I never thought Gary Lineker, and by the way, I never thought he should be fired. I thought something should be clarified here, because it clearly was a bit of a grey area. But the idea that Gary Lineker has nothing to do with the BBC is also a nonsense, right?
Oh, well, it's definitely a nonsense there, Ian, because obviously when the annual accounts come out every year, Gary Lineker is always across the media as the highest paid BBC employee. So the face of Gary Lineker and the BBC is quite clear there. You are right, there's this grey area. Now, I spend a bit of time when I was working for the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, a bit of time actually in the BBC newsroom on a secondment, so kind of know what those social media rules are for the news staff. I think you have, throughout your career, spent a bit of time working for the BBC as well. So, in terms of understanding what you can and can't do, there is that grey area, as you talked about, for kind of news and current affairs staff. And part of the reason for that, obviously, is that you don't want the opinions of the news and current affairs staff coming out when they might be writing their own content for the BBC website. They could be interviewing politicians. You want to make sure that there's that complete impartiality. So neither party has come out really well in all of this. I think what happened is what kind of accelerated the problem here, I think, Ian, is the fact that they didn't expect the BBC, this mass walkout. Now, I was listening to 5 Live on the weekend, just in the car, wanted to put the football commentary on for the children in the car, and then you could see that all the shows were being affected. The commentators themselves didn't turn up for Match of the Day thinking that you could get the international commentary feed, which the BBC didn't then have the rights to. So we had the first Match of the Day with no commentary. And I think it was the wider implications of the non-kind of Match of the Day content that was starting to be affected, which has accelerated this up. And obviously, they've come to a kind of an impasse and kind of come to a ceasefire today. But remember now, Ian, Gary's 62. I would very much doubt this will be the kind of another contract for Gary Lineker after this one. It's probably wind down his contract, and then there'll be a replacement at some point in the future.
And what I still can't quite get my head around, I think Gary Lineker is pretty good. I've never had a massive opinion one way or the other. He's a safe pair of hands. But I've never thought he was 1.3 million quid's worth of good. I mean, that to me would put him in a totally different place. But for some reason, that's not how the BBC see him. And they were clearly seem very desperate at the moment to keep him, unless there's some other legal reason why they thought, do you know what? We might think he's broken the rules, but there's nothing in his contract to say he has, which is why they've relented, and it looks like a victory for Lineker.
I think so. And if you watch BBC's Match of the Day on a Saturday or BBC's Match of the Day on a Sunday, I can't tell much of the difference. You're right. And the cost of the presenter is about 4 or 5 times for the Saturday show than what it would be for the Sunday show. And the content, as I say, there's not much difference. You're probably right, Ian, that there's some grey areas here that if they got rid of him, would the BBC be in breach of contract, because it could be challenged quite clearly that, well, he hasn't broken any rules, that it's a grey area. You've got to prove it is kind of black or white here. So
absolutely.
I think that's probably where we are, I think.
Indeed. A couple of other stories knocking around, Jamie. It is, of course, the illegal migration bill debate taking place today at Westminster. Any breaking news, will bring that to our audience today. Do you think it has the backing it needs?
Well, I think the government need to get a grip on kind of these small boat crossings, but there's going to be a kind of a huge debate. When you have these bills, they often go through kind of Parliament. There's a lot of amendments made. They'll go to the House of Lords. So whatever they're proposing will tend to get watered down before it actually gets kind of passed for that final voting kind of Parliament. I think the difficulty for me with this one, Ian, is that we do know a large number of the people who are coming over on the small boats are economic immigrants. Only got to look at the fact that 20% of people are coming from Albania, which we know there's kind of no war and persecution that they're fleeing there. But I think ultimately, whether or not you're going to, the numbers this year, you could be heading north of 60, 70,000 people coming across in small boats. I cannot see any third country in taking that amount of people. So that's where, for me, the bill might fall. It might get passed, but actually putting it into practice is going to be very difficult. But I think this is basically the government being seen to be doing something is what this is being kind of enacted on, I think.
I think you're spot on that one. Whatever the manifestation is or success of it, we wait and see. However, they are being active on clearly a contentious issue. Speaking of Suella Braverman, another part of another string to her bow today, telling police to protect free speech. This is over these non-crime, hate crime things where people's names are taken, they're written down, it's recorded as a hate incident, your name is logged, but you don't have a criminal record, you committed no offence.
Indeed, you shouldn't be going down that road. The police should never have been going down that road. We've seen them over the last few years with some people talking in terms of kind of the transgender issue or COVID itself, and people kind of being kind of visited by the police. And I think having some clear threshold, that's the key term that Suella Braverman's talking about here, is a clear threshold of what means a non-crime hate incident.
Sure.
That's going to be important, because obviously you need a kind of a threshold, because if these ever get challenged in the courts, I know there was a case where somebody went to the High Court and the High Court found the police unlawful when they recorded a non-crime hate incident. That's going to be the key thing, is what is the threshold, Ian? You know, how do you define what's above the bar and what's below the bar?
Absolutely. Jamie, as ever, thank you for kicking us off today. Here's Jamie Jenkins, statistician and all-round good bloke with a few views on the big hitters of the day.